Can you see my screen here?
Yes, I do.
Are you seeing the Facebook or the?
I'm seeing your video as well.
Okay. All right. Very good. There we go. Well, good afternoon. This is Ned Parks with Aegis 360 Consulting, and join us for our second pop-up 30-minute complimentary webinar, Understanding Your HABU and How to Find It. And what the heck is HABU? We're going to talk about that in just a minute. Appreciate having you here. I'm Ned Parks. I'm the president of Aegis 360 Consulting, and glad to be here with you. We are going to start on time and end on time, and we are also recording this, and we'll be posting it up on YouTube. So if you want to share this with somebody you think might find value in it, you're welcome to do that, and we'll get you the link to that later and get that sent out to you. So what is HABU? Well, it's really very simple. It's the highest and best use of your time. This is really something that I stole from the real estate industry. My parents were in real estate their entire lives, and if I heard once at the dinner table, I heard it 10,000 times. What's the highest and best use of the property? What's the highest and best use of the property? It's something that actually in city planning, and city planners use it, and urban planners and folks that do that kind of work, and they're always looking at what's the highest and best use of the real estate or the property or the building. One of the things that is important to understand, or one of the ways to think about it, is a skyscraper off the end of the runway is not the highest and best use of that property. A golf course might be a pretty good use of the property, or some other low altitude use of the property where noise wouldn't be an issue. You wouldn't care about it. Maybe a warehouse that's a single-story warehouse and wouldn't get in the way of the planes. That could be the highest and best use. So that's kind of where I took that from, is what's the highest and best use of the property. And because I was born and raised in a real estate family. So I've kind of applied it to time. What's the highest and best use of your time? And it's kind of interesting when we think about this, because in all of our work, we find ourselves doing things that probably we shouldn't be doing. Not that the activity itself is bad necessarily, but that activity probably very much needs to be done, but that we shouldn't be using our time to do it. It's not that it shouldn't be done. So, if you're the CFO of the company, possibly being out there and sweeping the warehouse floor is not the highest and best use of your time. You should be crunching numbers. There's someone else that can do that. Or maybe you shouldn't be designing the advertisement to hire somebody over in the marketing department. That's not the highest best use of your time. It's not really even a question of whether you can do it or not. It's a question of what are your strengths and what can you do about it? And are you spending your time on the things that you really need to be spending your time on? I don't know if I can. There we go. That's what I was looking for. So how do you find it? What are you doing that could be done by someone else? So I'm a big fan of the StrengthsFinder Assessment. It's a book. You buy it. I don't sell it, so I'm not selling you anything here. It's a book that you actually go and get at Barnes & Noble or Amazon or wherever you get it. And as you go through the book, there's a little sealed envelope with an access code in there. And in the access code, you use that, and you go online, it gives you the website, and you take the StrengthsFinder Assessment. And the StrengthsFinder Assessment has been put out by Gallup, Don Clifton from Gallup years and years ago. It's been around a very long time if you're not familiar with it. I can tell you that I find great value in what it tells you. What they do in the StrengthsFinder is they go through and they test you, assess you, because it's a true psychometric assessment. They assess you for what, out of 35 different strengths or gifts, you could look at it that way, strengths that we have, that are kind of innate to us, they look at that and say, what are your top 5? Now, it used to be years ago, you could only get your top 5. They wouldn't give you your bottom 35. And the reason they did that at the time was people would do what Marshall Goldsmith talked about, is they would ignore their strengths and go work on their weakness. We've kind of seen that a lot in schools. You know, your kid comes home and they get A's in English and A's in art, and they got a C- in math, and we got them a tutor for math. And I'm not saying they don't need to have math skills to get through life, but maybe we should think about that child and what is their strength and where can they best use their time. Highest and best use of their time comes back to that as well. Where can they use their time the best, and maybe they're the next great author or artist, or they're going to go into commercial art, or who knows what. And so I'm, from a developmental standpoint, a leadership development standpoint, I'm always saying, you know, let's get rid of what you're not good at, if we can figure out a way to do that. Delegate it out, and let's latch on to the things that you're really good at. And now in the StrengthsFinder, you can pay a little extra money. They found everybody wanted the bottom 30. So now they sell it to you. I've never bought it because I don't want to know. I have a pretty good idea what's number 33 and 35. And it's probably organization, and I can't seem to get myself organized enough to buy it. No, that's not the reason. I just don't see the value in it. So I really latch on to what my top 5 strengths are from the StrengthsFinder, and I encourage others to do it as well. So that's one place to go, kind of begin that search for what your highest and best use of your time is to say, you know, what am I really good at, and what am I doing about it, and I'm really utilizing those strengths. The other way to look at this from a purely financial standpoint, we do this with companies a lot, and it's called, in the finance world, or in finance acumen, we would call it opportunity cost, right? So an example of that would be, I had a client that made tractor trailers, and they made 2 different types of trailers. They make an aluminum trailer that's a dump trailer, and it's got all kinds of different shapes, and very, very expensive. And then they also make a steel trailer that is specifically for the demolition market. So they get beat up quite a bit, and they're a lot lower cost. As you can imagine, the profit margins on their aluminum trailers are a lot higher than on their steel trailers. The reason they make the steel trailers is they want their dealers to have only their name on the trailers in their lot. They don't want competitors on the lot, so they have to make this lower end trailer. Well, what we found out in doing some work with them was they were utilizing a lot of the real estate in their factory to make the steel trailers at about an 8% profit margin. And they were behind in cranking out the aluminum trailers at about a 15% profit margin. So what we encourage them to do is find a vendor that would make the trailers under their name. They'd split the profit with them, take 4%, open up that real estate in the factory, and make more 15% trailers. So sometimes this is just purely a financial decision, and we can think about it in the opportunity costs that we would with a business. But let's also think about it with our own time. And one of the things I like to think about when I look at this is, what am I doing that costs less to hire out than what I make? So let's say I make $65 an hour, and I could be making $65 an hour, or changing my own oil at some effective rate of $30 an hour. Well, it would be costing me $60 an hour to change my oil, because that's my effective rate of what I make. And I think it's important we do this. Certainly we think about this if you're self-employed. I think about it every day. Should I be working on something that'll make me a lot more money than what I'm about to spend? Should I be mowing my own lawn? That sort of thing. Is it the highest and best use of my time? Now, there's a limit to this, obviously, but it's not that you automatically don't do it, but you automatically should ask the question. And I think that's really critical, that we ask that question. It just doesn't make sense for me to do that when I could be doing this. I'm better at this and I make more money at this. So I'm going to hire that done, or I'm going to delegate it out, or I'm going to give it away. Now I happen to mow my own lawn just because it's a nice break from the routine, and it takes me about an hour and a half, and it gets me out on the tractor and in the sunshine. So I have other reasons for doing it. Is it economically feasible for me to mow my own lawn? Actually, it isn't. I've actually done the math on it. It kind of doesn't make sense for me to do it from a financial standpoint, but I do it for other reasons. So, but at least I'm honest with myself about that. And whether you're self-employed or not, if you work inside a company, I like to say that you are a steward of your paycheck. And what you need to be doing is making sure on that paycheck that you're giving the company whatever the value of the paycheck is. If it's $65 an hour plus benefits, so let's call it $80 an hour, then you should be giving $80 an hour of benefit back to the company. And if you're doing some sort of a task that can be given to somebody making, say, $20 an hour, so maybe an effective rate of $35 an hour with benefits, why don't you give it to them? So this is where we get into a real leadership process here, and saying, I'm going to really do what makes sense for me to do it. And this is also where I tie this in leadership development with how do you delegate? How do you even know? Well, I'm going to do a little bit of that today on this webinar. But I think this is something that we need to be honest with ourselves about. And a lot of people get themselves into a kind of a false sense of loyalty to their employees. They will somehow or another think that I need to do that because I don't want them thinking that I asked them to do something I wouldn't do myself. Well, whether you would or wouldn't do it is one question, but whether you are or are not doing it is another. And not asking them to do something that you wouldn't do is fine, but then proving that you would do it by doing it all the time, to me, that's not fine. And the other problem we have here is your employees frequently know what your strengths are, and they want to see you utilize them because they want to be a part of a winning team. And if you're doing their job, they're sitting there looking at you going, what's their job? Because they're doing my job. And so we need to make sure we get away from that. The other thing I think is important is everybody has a job, and everybody wants to do their own job, at least within the confines of the 95% of the good employees out there, right? They want to do the job they were hired to because it is how they contribute to the team. And if you take away that opportunity for them to contribute from the team, then they're saying, what the heck? How am I going to now contribute to the team? And I think we have to be very, very careful about that. So we get back to the Gallup thing, what are your skills, gifts, and talents? What do you do really well? And this is where I say, I had taken a little heat for this over time, but I always like to put out that I think that humility is overrated. I think that I'm not suggesting you should stand out there like Muhammad Ali and say that you're the greatest. But I think you should, to yourself, say, I'm really good at that and I'm going to do it. I'm really, really good at that and I'm going to do it. And not only am I good at it, I like to do it. And it's important that I do it because I'm good at it. And I think that we need to get out of this mindset that, oh, I can't say that because it sounds braggadocious. Well, nobody's asking you to say it to someone else, but we are asking you to say it to yourself. And then take on what you really do and do well and be where you belong and hand that to someone else. And there's things that I don't do well and I don't like to do them and I don't want to do them. So I try not to do them as much as I possibly can. And I can tell you that when I do them, I generally screw them up. And then someone else is mad because I have to pick up the pieces. One of those people are actually on this webinar. I will not say her name. But I will do things and I probably shouldn't have done it. And then I screwed up and then she's got to fix it. And then she says, why did you do that? That's not your job. You shouldn't do it. And she's right. It's absolutely correct. So it's a matter of self-discipline, and which I'll talk a little bit about in just a moment. So StrengthsFinder, it's actually StrengthsFinders now. They've actually branded it. Again, it's about a $13 or $15 book, I think, something along those lines. It's not very much money. And I would highly suggest you go buy it. Now, the one thing I will tell you is whatever you do, do not, I repeat, do not go buy a used one somewhere. because someone's already used the one-time access code, and then you've spent $3 on a used book that is essentially worthless. Because until you take the assessment, you can read the book and that's fine, but without having context to it of where you stand, it's kind of written in the first person to you. So spend the money, buy a brand new one off of Amazon or Barnes & Noble or wherever you go, but don't be cheap and buy a used one. Somebody on this call might know something about being cheap and buying a used one. I won't say his name, Ned, but maybe I'm saving you a few bucks. Leverage your strengths and delegate your weakness. Something I was just talking about. And you know, I think it's important that not only, you know, the other thing that being taking away the humility and saying, I'm really, really good at this. I think that when we do that to ourselves, we give ourselves confidence. I think we do a better job at whatever it is we do. I think we feel like we belong. You know, I feel like I belong there. Somebody just asked me how I wound up in the business of leadership development training and business acumen training. And you know, I said it was a pure accident. Years and years ago, I had to stand up and talk to a bunch of people, and I felt like I belonged. I didn't know that it was something I would like, and I never really thought about it. It just, here, go do this. Oh, okay. And you know, I just went, oh, it just wasn't a big deal. And it actually took me quite a few years from that to figure out that it was something that I like doing it, and I'm pretty good at it. And I don't mind telling you. Are there other people better? Yeah, and I love watching them because I always learn something. So that's what I'm talking about with the humility piece, is just understand what you do well and then just own it. And then what you don't do well, do one of two things. Figure out if you can delegate it out. Some things you can't. Some managers cannot delegate out, for instance, giving a poor performance review to their employee. That's kind of their job. You're going to have to get good at that. I don't care whether you don't like it and you're not good at it. Got to step up to that plate. There could be other things, however, you give to someone else and say, you know, you're a lot better at this than I am. You can do it faster than I can. It's really better suited for you to do it. Here, would you do this, please? So delegate those things out. And I jokingly say when I teach this in my live sessions, I don't do my own brain surgery and I don't do my own taxes, and there's a really good reason for that. I don't know how to do the one, and I don't like to do the other. Can I learn how to do my own taxes? Yeah, I can. And in fact, I can be pretty good. And when I was an officer in the Army, one of my additional duties that I got tasked to do multiple years I was in was be a tax counselor for enlisted soldiers. And they sent me to school, and I understand those things. I've got a brain for numbers. I'm good with that. I can walk through regulations. I'm something I'm pretty good at, actually. So I'm good at doing taxes. But you know what? Keeping up with it is not a good use of my time. Spending time doing it is not a good use of my time. So while I can do it and I have the brain power to do it, it is not a good use of my time. And more importantly, I don't like to do it. I just don't like it. It's just not something I enjoy. I understand it. I just don't like it. So I give it away. I give it to an accountant and I write them a check. And I'm glad to do that, by the way. And I think that's really, really important. Could I paint my own house? Yes. Oh, that's something I detest at a whole level you can't even believe. So you know what? I hire someone to come paint and I don't worry about it. And I think that's a really, really important piece of it. So leverage your strengths and delegate your weakness. And StrengthsFinder can help you with that. Now I'm going to give you one more tool to help you do that, because StrengthsFinder will only take you so far, right? And we call that, what do you have on your plate? And so here's what I have people do in the live sessions. I have a large format of this that we give to them. And they put a Post-it note of a task. And so let me walk you through this briefly. On the left-hand column, I have to do all. So what does that mean? So let's say you're a nurse and your job is to give them medicine. Well, guess what? You can't delegate that out to the housekeeper. Why? The housekeeper doesn't have the skill, and guess what? They don't have the license to do it. You're the only one that has a license. Let's say that you're a professional engineer and you have to approve some architectural drawings. Guess what? You're the one that has to approve it. You can't delegate that out. Your stamp and your name goes on there. You have to do that whole thing. Let's say, and you can pack in any other kind of, either through confidentiality reasons, through proprietary reasons. through the fact that your boss said, Bob, this is your job and I want your thumbprint on it. I want you to do, you personally to do this. Guess what? I got to do it, right? So there's a lot of different ways I can have something over here in that left column of I have to do it all. Now, let's go to the middle piece. I have to do part of it. So do I have to sign my tax return? Yes. But do I have to prepare it? No. So guess what? The signing part goes in the middle, but I'm going to delegate out the preparation to somebody else, right? And there's a lot of different things that in your, maybe you have to monthly report that you send up to, you know, the headquarters somewhere. And it's got all kinds of numbers in it and activities and blah, blah, blah. So you have to approve it. It's got to be right. Your name goes on it. Okay, fine. Do you have to go out and count the numbers? No. You can have somebody else count the numbers and say, get me the numbers on that. Get me the numbers on that. I need to know the activity here. Maybe you even have somebody prepare the whole report and you sit there and go through it and you make sure it's accurate, you sign it, you send it on. So that would be an example of things you have to do part, which means I can delegate out part of it. I can't delegate all of it, but I can delegate part of it. So guess what goes in the right column? Everything else, right? Everything else. Now, here's the trick. When I go to figure out what am I going to delegate, Ned, when I do this with a client, I say, you know what? We're not even going to look at the left column. You know why? Because we know we can't delegate that out. So let's not even have the conversation. Let's not waste our time. It's not going anywhere. It's mine. I'm going to keep it, right? Let's go to the middle one. What pieces, parts can you get rid of? Wow, you can capture back a ton of time by doing that. There's that highest and best use of your time again, right? And then, pardon me, on the right-hand column, and this is critical, I can get rid of all of that if I want. Now, maybe you don't want to get rid of all of it. Maybe you don't have enough people to get rid of all. I'm not suggesting you get rid of everything over there. I had a lady one time I was working with, and she said, Ned, I don't want to get rid of this one. I actually like to do that one. I said, you know what? Part of your job is liking what you do, so do it. It's fine. Part of your job is liking what you do, so go ahead and do that. Keep it. Just understand that you can give it away. You don't have to, but you can. You can delegate it out. You can stop doing it. At some point, I said at some point, you might not be able to do it anymore. It might be something that someone else would look at you and say, you know what, you can't hang on to that anymore. I don't care how much you like doing it. But that's where I then have people focus on their delegation. Most people, most leaders have trouble delegating because they don't know what to delegate before they don't know how to delegate. So I have them figure out what they can delegate first, and then I teach them how to delegate. That's a whole nother lesson. But this is really critical. By the way, you're welcome to this. If you're on the webinar, or if you see it on YouTube and you would like a copy of this, you can email us. My email will be on there. We'll get you I think it's in a Word or a PDF. I think it's a PDF document. We're glad to email that out. It's a great activity. You could have your team do it. You can do it yourself. I will tell you that I do these with Post-it notes, not writing directly on it, for a couple of reasons. One, it's dynamic. These things move quickly. You can move the Post-it notes around. Two, sometimes you'll put something someplace and then you'll reevaluate it and you'll want to move it. You don't have to scratch out. So it's just just from a facilitation standpoint, it's a little easier to do with Post-it notes. We're coming up on our quick 30 minutes here. We got about 6 minutes to go. So let's draw kind of a close to this. How do you find your HABU? I think we've kind of gone over that. Refer to your StrengthsFinder results. Go back to the 5 things that it gives you in StrengthsFinder and hang on to that with your life. You will find that they're actually really, really accurate. Get clarity with your boss on your tasks. I think this is incredibly important. Yesterday's pop-up webinar was about one-on-one meetings, which is now posted and available on the YouTube channel. And again, we'll get you the link to go find those, and you can watch that one as well. But one of the things that I think you should do is make a list of all the different tasks you're doing, and you know, maybe twice a year or periodically throughout a frequent one-on-one, sit with your boss and say, so I want to go over this group of tasks here to make sure that this is what you want me doing, or I don't think I should be doing this. I think I should delegate it out, or if you don't have the option to just do it on your own. But getting clarity from your boss on your tasks is another great way to help with that. Drop your tasks on your plate and see where they end up. The plate I just gave you. Just put them on there, put them on Post-it notes and put them on there. And then I tell people sometimes to put that up on the wall in their office, because this is dynamic. It's a living document, and you'll come and you'll add things to it later. You'll move them around. You'll take them off because guess what? You delegated them out and they're gone now. Find some development items that you can put in place. You say, gee, I really want to do that. I need to make the time. Not find the time, make the time. There's a difference. You don't find time, right? You want to find time, look at your watch. It's right in front of you. But you have to make the time to do these things. And so if you decide, for instance, I always try to have at least one professional thing and at least one personal thing from a developmental standpoint going. And sometimes, they take back seats. I get busy, but I try to have them on my list to make sure that they're there. So, I always try to have, something in my personal life that I'm developing. I'm doing something, whatever it is, reading a book, reading a classic, listening to music, I don't know, doing whatever. I'm a pilot, so I'm always trying to get another flight rating, or I'm doing something, right? It's something in my personal life and then something in my professional life. So make time for those, and you'll find that they will get onto the I want to do them side. Develop a wish list. This, in fact, I think a pop-up webinar next week is going to be on the 4 lists everyone should have. This is something else I teach: the to-do list, the project list, the wish list, and the bucket list. So real quickly on the wish list, you develop a wish list when you're driving home from work and you say the following: I really wish, and then you fill in the blank about your department or your company or what you're doing. Or you'll say it this way: it would be really nice if. That will develop a wish list. Now, I make all my clients develop a wish list, and here's why. There's 2 reasons. One, I find a lot of bosses are asking, what's your vision for your department? Well, if, without getting too deep into this today, because we're running short on time, without getting, if I'm the manager of the shipping and receiving department, how can I have a strategy or vision for my department? Come on, we accept stuff, we set stuff out. Well, that's not really what the question means. But when I find that shipping and receiving manager has a wish list, they develop the vision for the department. It's fascinating how it becomes, it kind of takes on a life of its own. So check back in about a week, and I think we're going to do a pop-up webinar on the 4 lists that you should always have. And then, what are the frustrations that you have? Okay, conclusion. Self-discipline without talent can often achieve astounding results. Self-discipline without talent, whereas talent without self-discipline inevitably dooms itself to failure. I just love that quote when I was looking for it here. I just thought it was spot on. This is all about self-discipline. It's all about saying, this is what I'm going to do, and this is what I'm not going to do. This is where I'm going to spend my time, and this is where I'm not going to spend my time. And you can have all the self-discipline you want. And when you have that, you can override the talent. When you have all the talent, not the self-discipline, you can really, really fall flat. You need to bleed the 2 together. And I think that's really what this is saying. So self-discipline is the key here. You've got to just say, this is what I'm doing. I'd like to open it up for any question and answers. I think you'll find that there's a Q&A button there. If you want to type in some questions, you're welcome to do that. If not, that's perfectly okay. We're coming up on our time, and I want to honor us on our time here. We got about a minute to go, so we'll call this to a close. I'll stay on for a few moments if you want to ask me something, or you're certainly welcome to do that. I'm going to go through and read these, and we'll put this up on YouTube. You're free to come get it later. If you would like a copy of, what we have, you're certainly welcome to do that. And we'll be glad to, on the plate exercise, we'll be glad to email out both these slides as well as the plate exercise if you'd like them. Libby just chatted in here that hustle beats talent when talent isn't hustling. Oh my gosh, Libby, I love that. Thank you. One of my favorites has been stolen by many coaches. Oh my gosh, that's fabulous. Hustle beats talent when talent isn't hustling. Hey, Bob, how are you, buddy? My OCD really kicked in on the plate, the fork, and the knife in the wrong place. Oh my God, Bob, I'm so glad to see you on here, buddy. It's been a while we haven't spoken. That's fantastic. Thanks for seeing that. That's pretty funny. We'll get you a copy of that, and maybe I'll put the fork and the knife on the top and the bottom and really drive your OCD in overdrive, buddy. So thanks everybody for being here. We appreciate it. We're going to have another pop-up webinar tomorrow. Look for that. We'll post it on Facebook and get it emailed out to you. And then we have a big webinar on Thursday, which is going to be with my buddy Dan Topf. And we're going to be talking about business acumen. It's a 1-hour webinar. We've really found 9 different segments that make up business acumen. We're going to talk about what those different talents are, those different areas of expertise, if you will. Oftentimes, business acumen is referred to as finance, and we think it goes way, way beyond finance. It's a huge piece of it for sure, but it goes way beyond that. So thanks for being here. We'll bring a close to this, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.
Thanks.